Thank you very much. I wondered if you wanted to hear a little bit about what made Dietrich Dietrich. Even if I take a little time, do you mind? Thank you, Mr. Pink. It was an interesting family that I was born into. It was a family that was aware and was very associated with war. My father had fought in the First World War as a Czechoslovakian, then an Austrian, and then back again as a Czechoslovakian. My mother lost two fathers in the First World War and a multitude of cousins, all Prussians, all militaristic, and all the type that Hitler would have adored. What impressed me about her was that if you have international fame, real international fame, and you do something with it as a weapon against evil, that's somebody to honor. We were in the south of France when Neville Chamberlain made his delightful little trip to Hitler, and I was evacuated to The Hague quickly to take a ship to America. When he returned with his fairy tale, I was brought back to this summer in the Côte d'Azur with all the Kennedy children that I adored, because they represented to me the American child with the perfect teeth. They really represented for me as a European child, brought up in a European way, all that was freedom, all that was youth, all that was being able to be anything you wanted to be. And Joe Kennedy, the father, said to my mother in 1939, we were again in the south of France, if I have to send my children back to America, I will let you know about Maria. That time happened, and my mother was already in America making film. She always needed money. She was always broke. And I was brought to Paris in a car with Eric Maria Remarque. It's quite an experience to have a war descending on you out of the shadows and be in a convertible car driving through France that already had given up on the war with Eric Maria Remarque, the man who wrote All Quiet on the Western Front. It's something that you never forget, because in those days, already before war was declared, this was late August, the French farmers had decided that they were going to be beaten by the Wehrmacht and that they would be overridden, and they were taking their mules to market to slaughter because they didn't want the German army to use them. And it was foggy and it was dark. It was a very beautiful movie night as they were herding these dark animals through the forest as we were driving from the Côte d'Azur to Paris. And Boni, as we called Remarque, looked at me, and he was bringing me to safety to my mother. He had promised her he would. He looked at me, a teenager, and he said, "Remember this. This is the end of France." And we arrived in Paris, and it was the first night that Paris had dimmed its lights. The city of lights had dimmed its lights. The war hadn't started yet. And we went to Fouquet, which Boni loved. He loved to sit there. He was Hemingway and he were very much alike in that respect. They loved their drink, and they loved to talk, and they loved to tell stories, and they loved to lord it over the world as they were drinking. And they brought out all the wine, the beautiful 100-year, 200-year, 300-year, I don't know what it was. The Rothschild soul cellar was brought out to him. And he said, I can't drink all of this. And the Maître D at the Fouquet on the Champs-Élysées took the bottles and smashed them against the table and said, the Boche are not going to get our wine. We finally made it onto the Queen Mary. It was her last journey as a beautiful, glamorous ship before she was painted gray and became known as the Gray Lady, taking people to their death to fight for freedom. And they were all there. Everyone was there. People were lying on billiard tables. Everybody was escaping. And second day out, war was declared. And the Second World War was underway. I don't think that, I'm sure that some of you are in this room, of which I'm very honored to speak to, have experienced it. But for those of you who have never experienced it, America, the freedom of this country, is never more apparent or more precious than when you flee and need her to house you. There is a strength in our country. I'm a naturalized citizen. It's a feeling that you never get over. You belong. You've made your roots, and yet you're always looking over your shoulder, and you always have to remember what it took to be able to say, I'm a citizen of these United States.